And here we are.
There we went.
We are here.
Here we go.
Okay. Wait a minute. You're on the right side today.
I know,
I'm on
right?
the left side.
You know, we should
Wow.
just change it up once in a while, I guess.
Wow. I didn't even notice until just this second.
It's like you're in the driver's seat.
Wow. I feel like those are some big shoes to fill.
I think that means you should, like take over and drive.
Well, the good news is
Here we go.
today I'm doing the demo. So we got
true.
that, but I'm still going to let you. We're like the driver's ed car where you have a wheel and I have a wheel. You have a gas pedal, I have a brake pedal. We're going to see how it goes.
Nice.
Yeah. I like that analogy. And
I think
welcome.
it's more like neither one of us have the brake pedal.
It's true. We just do it live. We're just going down a hill and just coasting and seeing how things go.
Yeah.
If we crash along the way, no big deal.
Nice.
But hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the show. For whoever's here, I can't see right now, but it's good to have you. It's good to have you. This is Containers from the Couch. We talk all things containers on AWS. And yesterday we had a couple guests on the show. Today it's just Brent and I going back to the old school, the dynamic duo here, just doing it live. But today we're going to talk about blue-green deployments on ECS using AWS Code Deploy. So first of all,
it's a lot.
Let's go back in time, Brent. Back when we used to deploy things, for companies that we weren't just, talking about it.
It's not that long ago.
It really isn't.
I kind of just deployed about 5 minutes ago. So
that's true.
That's containers true. To the containers from the couch.com.
That's a good point. So, but yeah, it's looking back at the good old days when we didn't have all this fancy tooling available to us, and we kind of had to build this stuff on our own, and just build this extensive monitoring infrastructure to monitor as we were deploying, and everyone was all hands on deck, looking, watching, and obviously we've evolved in time, but over time.
For
sure. But so blue-green, how long has blue-green even been around for? I mean, I want to say a pretty good chunk of time.
Well, it has. And what's funny is it's been around longer than, Docker containers have been popular, or maybe Docker containers have been around. And notice, by the way, I said Docker containers and not containers. Containers have been around for decades.
Yeah.
Docker containers, kind of made the container super popular. So that's around the 2015 timeframe, maybe something like that.
A little sooner.
13.
Yeah, that sounds more right. Yeah.
Time just doesn't make sense to me anymore, so I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, blue-green deploys were around before that. So what is a blue-green deploy?
Yeah, I think I have a really good visual on it, but to talk about it, I think it's, first of all, we added a section to ECS Workshop on blue-green deployments, and that's what we're going to go over today. And specifically, though, when we think blue-green deploy, it's basically a way for you to release your application in a way where you can shift traffic gradually. You can shift traffic all at once, but it's a way to basically side-by-side deploy your application to your production environment and test it to allow for if it fails, if it's not what you expect, easy rollback. So you can quickly roll back. But also with blue green, I think the original when we talked about blue green, it was just here's version blue and then here's green, flip the switch. Okay, green doesn't work, flip the switch back. But now it's much more advanced than that. We talk canary deployments where I can just have a small subset of traffic to my green deployment. I can health check it, see how traffic's responding, and then gradually grow my green deployment until it's good, and then that becomes 100% serving all the traffic, and that deployment's successful.
Yeah, totally. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot there. I think the traffic shifting is where it all started. And I asked this question on Twitter, earlier this morning. Why do you think it's called blue green? Like, where do you think that came from? And I was thinking back to reading this long, long time ago. So my memory is going to be foggy on this, but basically, the whole premise between in this kind of deployment is what Adam described, where you deploy your new code right alongside your old code. So it's sharing the same infrastructure, it's running, but no traffic is going to it. And then all of a sudden, back then you would do it in the router. You would actually pop traffic over to the new version of the application, and then you would look to see is everything working correctly, and if it wasn't, you could very quickly pop it back over to the old version. And what I remember was the original premise was we would have like an A side and a B side. But the problem is if someone were to, if there was ever a problem on the B side, then there would be like some manager or pointy haired boss that would say, why weren't you using the A side? Because, clearly A must be better than B.
Yeah.
So yeah, they decided no, let's come up with a completely neutral, even way to label these things, and colors was the idea. And so there was a possibility then of having even more additional colors like yellow and orange and gray and whatever.
Gray.
Yeah, gray. Maybe we call that dark deployments. No.
That's the Friday night deployment.
Yeah. But no, they over time, they realized we only ever use blue and green. We only ever need two because whatever is active, the other can be passive and not active, and we can go back to it. So, so yeah, that over time just worked its way out into our vocabulary, our technical vocabulary as a blue-green deployment. But it was really just sort of the brainchild of one random, ops team, and
Right.
the rest is history.
That's pretty amazing. And it makes sense because like you deploy A and like B's not as A is always like number one, right? Like
Right. You're always going to
obviously
think
B's broken.
always going to think B is a little bit slower or has more
Right.
bugs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, oh
exactly.
good. We deployed A again. We're back on our fast deployment. Woof. You know. But that's cool. And Brent, I always look to you for these stories. I always get a kick out of them. It's like you just always have good stories to tell. So that was a
Fun.
good one. I
It's
appreciate
fun
that.
to understand like the background and the why, instead of just
Yeah,
like taking things for face value. So, yeah, it's
absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely. And so I think, when we talk about blue green deployments right now, and by the way, before we talk, we do have some folks from across the globe here. We got
Nice.
a techie thought from Dublin. Hey there. And then also, Ori 21 is from Germany. I didn't know that. Did you know that, Brent?
I knew it was going to be somewhere in Europe because uh, I think he's always saying like good afternoon and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
but yeah, like I didn't know it was Germany specifically. So, hey, grab a beer on me because I miss German beer. Hey, look, we even have someone from our YouTube channel. Uh, Pavan. I recently found this channel. Thanks a lot for doing this. It's really helpful. Thanks for joining. And by the
Yeah.
way, for everyone else, if you didn't realize that we have a YouTube channel, you can go to containersfromthecouch.com, find any of our videos, and they should lead you to our YouTube channel. And then from there, you can subscribe, you can get go live notifications for every time we start the show up. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yes, and clearly, Brent, your influence in Texas is everywhere because we've got quite a few Texans here. So
Nice,
that's
nice.
awesome.
I'm in Dallas too, by the way. So, or Frisco. So here's Adam. Here's another little funny ism about being in Dallas. Dallas is really kind of a metroplex of like 20 some odd cities. And so if you ever ask someone where they're from, they'll say Dallas. And then if you're from Dallas, you know to then throw in the follow-up question, where in Dallas? And then
Got it.
I get to say Frisco. So,
Nice. Okay. Okay. That's good. And by the way, Frisco, if you were in San Francisco, I'm pretty
oh,
sure the locals there would not want to hear you say Frisco.
exactly.
I've
I think I was about to be clubbed one day when I realized I needed to say Texas, Frisco, Texas.
Yes,
And
because you
they
will
were
be
like,
booed out of a room if you say
exactly.
Frisco. Yeah. So I'm glad we covered that. That's very valuable for folks that
Texan
travel to San Francisco.
Texan Raj is back, and now I find out he's from Houston, so that's awesome. Um,
Nice.
we got uh, Batcha Naveen. Hello from Florida.
Wow. Plano. Hyderabad. Look at
Wow,
this.
yeah, one of my fans. Nice elbow cough. Nice. Wait, that's hilarious from US
Yeah,
West One.
I
We
like that.
and
San
see, look,
Francisco.
here's the follow. Here's the follow up to the question. Where in Dallas? Plano.
Yeah, see? There it
Nice.
is. Okay. All right. So great talk around where everybody's located. Thank you again, everybody watching. Oh, we got a question about the headphones.
Yeah, we you know it's funny. We get this question a lot, and we both have the same headphones. They're kind of old now, but Bose QC35s. So if I were buying them today, I would buy the newer Bose whatever's they're
Yeah,
called. But yeah, I like them. They're easy to wear all day, and these days I'm wearing headphones basically all day.
all day. Yeah, they're like pillows on my ears. It's fantastic. So,
Yeah,
by the way, not a paid sponsor.
that's right. But Bose, if you're listening and interested, tweet me.
Send us headphones, please. All the different colors. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. What do you think, Brent? Let's start talking blue
Let's
green
do
and
it.
let's actually do some cool stuff from the command line.
Sounds good.
All right. So as we
All right.
switch over here,
That's probably my job, right?
remember we both drive, two wheels, two
That's
gas
right.
pedals. Thank you.
That's right.
Um, so this is our ECS workshop website. If you've been here before, so there's a good question there I want to answer in just a moment. But if you've been here before,
Totally.
you may notice that the layout's a little different. We just changed it recently. But specifically, the section we're going to review today is blue-green deployments. And one thing I want to do is this is open source. So, when we talk ECS workshop, EKS workshop, it's not just Brent, it's not just myself. There's a community that helps build this. And actually, there's a DevOps consultant at AWS over in the UK that actually submitted this change. So Suraj, thank you for the contribution. Really awesome. So let's get right into it. So, okay, there was a question around ECS and specifically, is blue green supported in the CDK ECS patterns? The answer is no right now. You can, and we're actually going to go through the CDK. This is all done via the CDK, but what you'll see is there's certain components that we build within the CDK that we actually have to create a custom resource for. And I'll show you that in just a minute. But there is a GitHub issue out for this. And it's basically because of the way it's implemented in CloudFormation, the CDK team has to basically create an RFC to determine how they're going to implement this functionality. So that's kind of a long story short right there. And at some point I will go to that and I'll share that link so you can follow that issue in GitHub as well. Okay. So all of our sections in the ECS workshop do have the videos as well. So you could actually watch this video live on ECS workshop. Thanks to Brent.
It.
I will not, because then it's just going to be really weird.
Oh my gosh, it's like they say Ghostbusters don't cross the streams. I think it would be like that. We would like rip a hole in space or something. So
yeah, we can't do that. I agree. It would just, it's like multiplicity.
Everyone else out there, yeah, exactly. Everyone else out there, you're free to watch it from this site. It's totally fine. Also, it's on Containers from the Couch. But yeah, Adam is banned. So
and also, now that you mention it though, let's look at really quick containersfromthecouch.com just so you can see.
Yeah.
This is where all of our content goes that we do on the show. So
that looks nice.
It looks really good. Looks really good. Nicely done, Brent.
So thanks. I can't take all the credit. My lovely wife did a lot of the work, so she's awesome.
She is really creative. I got to tell you, if this was me doing this, it just would have been like blocks and just like plain squares.
Containers.
Been horrible. Exactly. Like I would have lost a lot of friends that way. Okay. So again, we talked about blue-green deploys, but really this is just a technique for releasing your application by shifting traffic between two versions of your application in basically one environment with two copies of your application. And the idea is to slowly migrate that traffic over. You have your blue release active, green comes up. You have first a test endpoint to make sure that it passes basic validation tests. And then once that's good, you start to either you can do it all at once or gradually switch over to green. So good stuff here on that. So what we're going to do today is we're going to deploy a very simple Nginx app. It's going to be an Nginx app that's just going to show the color of the particular version that we're on. So it's just going to be an application load balance service. So you'll see an application load balancer. We'll have two target groups, which I'll show you in just a moment. Target groups for blue, target group for green. And then there's also a listener on 8080. So that the production port listens on 80, and then the test port is on 8080. So that's where we can get that initial testing done before we actually start to canary out. And then we're going to build a pipeline. So I don't love Nginx so much. It's just easy. So I just happened to see that. I know.
You're just lucky it's not Jenkins. So
exactly. Oh man, I built so much with Jenkins in my time.
Totally.
But with that said, I love Code Pipeline. I really love our code suite, or our code tools, code services suite. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to use code commit for our Git repository. We're going to use code build, which is actually going to build our Docker image and push it to the Elastic Container Registry. And then we're going to use code deploy to actually deploy using our blue-green deployment provider to Fargate, by the way, Fargate. So, and it could be ECS on EC2. And of course, code deploy is not limited to ECS, but we like containers. So we're going to talk ECS here.
Let's just stop for 1 second, talk about all those services that we're putting together. Code commit is designed to hold data, so it's obviously stateful. ECR is obviously stateful. It's designed to hold artifacts. But everything else is totally ephemeral, and you're only going to pay for it when you use it, and that's incredible. Code build is going to come up, it's going to do your build, and then it's going to go away, and you get to stop paying for it. And then code deploy is going to do the same thing. It's going to run the deploy, and then it's going to go away. Instead of having something that is up all the time, and you're constantly having to care for it and feed it and maintain it, this is just all going to happen for you in the background. So
God, I love that point. Yeah,
it's awesome.
And like code pipeline, I don't want to misspeak, so we'll check. But I'm pretty sure you don't pay for code pipeline. You just pay for what you use within the pipeline. I may be wrong. Am I wrong?
I think there's a, I think, I think there's a, I don't know. I think there you might pay a little bit of something for code pipeline.
Paging Richard Boyd. Paging Richard Boyd.
I know, right?
You know what? I'm sorry. This is my ADD here. I can't focus on one thing. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So
One free pipeline
and then it's $1 per active pipeline. Woo!
per month. Yeah, so exactly. It's not going to break the bank or anything, but it's
Yeah.
not technically free.
Yep.
So
Good. Okay. So, and yeah, so we're going to use all of these services today. And yes, we are going to actually use the CDK to deploy this. So,
nice. Oh
um,
yeah, that was answering Tex and Raj. So
yes,
yes, CDK all the way.
because if you know Adam, you know Adam loves the CDK. I really do. Although I'll say you're going to start seeing a shift with me is I will talk a lot about CDK, but as Copilot continues to improve for ECS, I'm gonna start talking. I want to talk a lot more about Copilot because that tool, command line tool, is so powerful. But yes,
Yeah,
this is CDK, and I love it.
totally. Yeah.
So just a quick example. This is what a AWS code pipeline example looks like. I'm not going to really dive into that. And then a blue-green deployment example. So this was taken from upstream GitHub repo, AWS samples, but just to give you an idea of visually what blue-green deploys look like. So yeah, we'll keep it at that because I think we talked a lot about it. Okay, so I've cloned this repo, which you do in the prerequisite steps. And this CDK is all done using TypeScript. So for those that are sick of hearing me talk about Python, today we get to talk about TypeScript. So very similar as far as the format. Obviously, Python versus TypeScript, there is a difference in how you manage your files in your repository. But we're going to get started with installing all the packages. So we're going to do an npm install. This is going to install all our CDK dependencies, everything we need to actually build and run our CDK code. And then we're going to build all of those files. Okay, so that's wrapping up. Perfect. Let's go to the next step. Let me move this here. My apologies. Okay, so one thing is this uses a newer version of CDK. We're actually using, in this example, 1.54. We're already on 1.57. CDK moves very fast. I already have it bootstrapped, I think, so we're good. But generally what you want to do is you want to bootstrap your environment first. And when you bootstrap, it's just basically creating a bucket. It's putting some prerequisite assets in there. So anything that's related to your environment that's being deployed, it references a lot of that in that S3 bucket. So that's just creating kind of that asset storage environment for you. So now that we've done that, I'm going to run a CDK deploy. Actually, let's do it. Let's do a CDK diff and let's see what we're going to build. And then I'm going to run through the code. And I hope my text is okay. So if it's a problem, please let me know.
I think it's good.
Okay.
Let us know in the chat if it's too hard to read.
Yeah, thank you. So what we're going to be doing here is, in the past you've seen me. I've defined our ECS services in CDK. So in the example here, what we're going to do is pretty much deploy a load balancer, ECS cluster, the code commit repository, a lot of stuff. Okay, and then of course we're going to deploy the code pipeline as well. So that's the code pipeline, the code build environment, as well as the code deploy configuration. And I mentioned earlier, because the CDK is not doesn't have a really high level construct around this, like an L2 or an L3 construct. We have a custom resource to build our deployment configuration. And a deployment configuration is what defines how you deploy your application using AWS code deploy. So what that means is, if we look here, that means, let me actually, oh shoot, I went to the wrong section here. But that's basically safe with my configuration. I'm determining the type of deployment I want to do, whether that's linear or a canary. So linear is just basically a certain set over a certain period of time. Canary is a small subset, and then very similar. You grow out in time, but also my steps and that. So I did see there was a question.
Yes. From Techie Stories. Hey, welcome back. Um, she wants to know are there security features included by default? And let's touch on that just real quick as a recap for CDK type projects specifically.
Yeah. So with the way it works with the CDK is CDK manages a lot of the underlying components for you, a lot of we call it the boilerplate, and IAM being one of those. And what I mean by that is if you were to create a resource in AWS on your own, you'd have to create the IAM policies, sync those resources that you want to talk to each other through IAM, create service roles, etc. So the CDK is going to only grant the access between the resources on a least privilege basis and to only what's needed to talk to one another. So by default, for example, if you wanted to have your load balancer, I don't know, open to the world, or you wanted to open up SSH, oftentimes that's something you'd have to do on your own. That's not going to be out of the box by default. But if I'm creating an S3 bucket and an ECS service and I want to connect those together, I can use the CDK, these helper methods to connect those resources together. But long story short is, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and then if you just think about the way all of these services are fitting together, like code deploy needs to be able to push into ECR, ECS needs to be able to pull from ECR. There's, something that somebody needs to read out of an S3 bucket, etc. Like all of those permissions are least privileged and included as part of the boilerplate. And it is possible to go back through and override some of that if you feel the need to, if there's like a tweak that you need to make. But yeah, for the most part, that's all been included as part of the construct or part of the best practice.
Exactly. So just to kind of go over some of the things we're building again, we're building our ECR. ECR is our container registry. So we're building a repository. I mean, it's, when I say building, it's just creating a pointer, but this is a fully managed container registry. So we're just creating a repository for our Docker image. And by the way, we're enabling image scanning on push, which I really like. It doesn't cost you anything. And this is just a little sidebar. When you push an image to ECR, you have the ability to enable image scanning on push. And that way, every time you push an image, you can have a scan run on that Docker image for any vulnerabilities. I did do a tech talk on that not too long ago, so that'd be cool to link in here. But regardless, Techie Stories, asks about security a lot, which I like. And this just is one of those pieces that you can add to your pipeline. When we talk DevSecOps, where you have a pipeline, but you also are integrating security there by scanning your ECR images. So we create our code commit repository. And again, it doesn't have to be code commit. In this example, that's what we use. But of course, code pipeline also works with GitHub, Bitbucket, and there's maybe more. I can't think of any more at the moment, but
yeah, there's a set.
Yeah, exactly. So then we're going to create a code build project. So, and actually, by the way, I did run a CDK deploy. So this is happening in the background while I'm talking. And in our code build project, so code build is a way to, if you think in the world of like GitLab or where you have like GitLab CI, you have like a runner. This is like a runner, right? It just spins up a container. It's going to run and build whatever it is that you've defined in your build spec, which is your YAML definition of how you want your test and build to run. And then it moves to the next step, basically. So that's defining our build. And then we just, some of the other stuff, kind of boilerplate stuff, VPC, ECS cluster, as well as the load balancer with two target groups. So a target group, we have our load balancer, which has a listener, and the listener talks back to target groups. And the target group will point to your applications. And that could be over IP, that could be over a couple different options. But here, the way we're setting this up is we're just creating basically two empty target groups right now, with the idea that once we start the blue-green deployments and we integrate that into all of this, then we'll be switching over between target groups as we go between blue and green.
Nice. So it actually gets back to that original idea of the router, like the load
Exactly.
balancer is our router and the two different target groups are blue and green. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And so yeah, so that's it. So it's building this stuff. This takes a few minutes. Of course, we're creating a network, creating 74 resources here,
Nice.
which equates to a lot of lines of cloud formation. So that we don't have to manage.
Well,
Which
while we're waiting, let's take a break and mention that
yes,
on Monday, we are going to be running, and you and I are going to be hosting part of AWS Container Day. So you definitely, if you're interested in Kubernetes, this is a day zero event for KubeCon Europe. So if Kubernetes is at all interesting to you, sign up for Container Day at the URL down here, awscontainerday.splashthat.com. And I think I saw an email this morning that it looks like if you wanted to attend KubeCon and do the keynote plus the booth, the expo hall, the conference passes for those are free. Otherwise, a KubeCon conference pass is now only $75. It used to be like $1,400. So it's going to be an interesting conference, a good one to attend.
yeah,
AWS will have a booth there, and you'll see a lot of our content from Containers on the Couch will be in the booth as well. There's going to be some workshops and people you can talk to. KubeCon itself is going to be European Standard Time, but the Container Day, Day Zero event is going to be U.S. Standard Time, and then we'll repeat it again for Europeans and again for Asia Pacific. So definitely consider checking that out.
yes, 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 yes. Please do. Okay, so we're done. We have our build. So actually, our environment's been deployed. And what I've done is I've captured the load balancer URL. And now I actually want to see what that looks like. So what we should see is a URL, which feel free if you want to go here and look at this yourself, you absolutely can. This is real. And what we're going to do is we've deployed our application. So with everything we just did, we deployed an ECS service, an ECS cluster. We have the blue-green setup ready to go. Now, what we want to do is actually push to our Git repository to trigger a deployment of the green version of our application. And yes, by the way, someone had mentioned about cloning. I apologize in the ECS workshop. This is a bug that I just created. I will be sure to fix that because we don't have the clone in this particular section. So that was my
Oh,
bad.
is it not the code pipeline repo?
Is it there? Okay, maybe it is there.
It's
I'm
not
just
in this
crazy.
chapter. It's up higher when you, I think in
The microservices.
yeah, the microservices section.
Yeah, so I just got to put it here too. Okay. All right. So what we're now, we pulled down a sample repo. Okay. And if we look at our remote right now, I set our remote to be that code commit repository that we just created. So when I make a change now, I'm going to push to that repo. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change our Nginx conf. And, I'm having issues with this. Oops, let's go here. And
Just so you could have one more issue, do you think you could make your font bigger?
absolutely, I always forget how to do this. So I think I got to go
Preferences.
preferences, and then I got to find it.
Yep. And there's one
Where
for terminal and one for it's in user settings. Yeah.
why like it's the simple things are the hardest things for me. Okay, let's see how is that better or a little more.
Let's go one more.
I'm gonna go two more.
Okay. Sounds
So
good.
just in case. Okay. All right. So we have that for now. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna change our background color from blue, and by the way, not just any blue, but cornflower blue, to green. Okay. And then we're going to get status. We're going to add this file, git commit -m, adding green, and then we're going to push. Okay. So what have I done? I've changed our application to go from blue to green. And what I want to do now is go to the code pipeline so we don't miss it and show you what's actually happening. So here's our pipeline. You can see the deployment's already triggered. Okay, so there's a source stage which pulls down our code from Git. It then basically bundles it into an artifact and passes that to our build stage. The build stage of our pipeline is actually going to build our Docker image, and it's going to push it to ECR. And when I say build the Docker image, it's going to actually capture that Nginx configuration or that the index HTML that I just modified, bundle that into the Docker image, and then push it to ECR. And once that's done, it's going to then trigger the blue-green deploy, which I have to tell you, the UI in our blue-green deploy with code deploy is so cool, and I can't wait to show you. So
Can't wait to see it.
I mean, Brett, you know, I just love like pipelines. I don't know what it is. I'm just a DevOps person at heart.
And I love good UI. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm excited to see this.
So check this out. So we built our Docker image, we tagged it, and as you can see, we have a latest tag, but we also have a git SHA tag, right? Don't tag
Nice.
and
Thank you.
don't run latest in production. Your friends will not like that. And now we have our deploy stage. So, you know, talking about code pipeline just really quick, really cool how the different levels of integration that are included with code pipeline. So when I think if I'm managing this on my own, I have to think about managing a CI service, a CD service. I have to think about all of these things. I need to have something to manage that blue-green that I have to configure and monitor and watch. I don't have to monitor code pipeline. That's a managed service. I don't have to monitor code deploy. That's a managed service. So just, you know, another neat thing to mention there. Okay, so what
Really
is
cool?
Yeah, right? Like, isn't this beautiful? So, okay, so what's happening right now? So we're in the first stage of our deployment. It's creating a replacement task set. So if you're familiar with ECS, you have a task definition. A task definition is like basically like in the Kubernetes world, it's a way to define your pod. Okay, it's a very similar. A task pod, like I like to just compare those two so it's understood by all. But essentially that task definition is where you're going to define your container or set of containers that you want to run as one collective unit. And so right now it's building that new task definition. And the next step is it's actually going to start to test that new task definition with a new service, basically confirming how is this working? Are we healthy to actually start to route production traffic to this app? So let's see, and it
So
auto refreshes. Yeah, go ahead.
let me repeat just to see if I understand it correctly. So we're waiting right now on our Fargate tasks to actually come up, but we aren't sending any new traffic to those new tasks yet. So it's not
Correct.
just building the task definition, it's actually like building the task definition plus bringing up our new containers and all that stuff. That's really cool.
Exactly. So, and you can see here, so we're basically doubling that task count right now. So it's all within the same service. We're doubling our task count. So you can see we have the old app, and then we have the new app task definition here that's about to be deployed. And forgive the numbers. That's just because I've done testing before.
No worries. And we have a question from our YouTube channel. I defined 4 containers with 1 task definition. Will these templates work if I start setting up my pipeline? And I think that's what's actually pretty cool about this is we're not really thinking in terms of containers. We're thinking in terms of tasks. So if they're all part of the same task, then yeah, it'll absolutely work whether there's 1 container or 10 containers inside of them.
Bingo. And so take a look. It already ran through step 2. That was really quick. So it
Yeah.
tested that traffic against my health check. So obviously our health check is nothing advanced. It's just checking that Nginx returns 200. And now it's starting to route traffic. So look at this on the right here. Look at this
I love this.
awesome little graph.
And I love that they're using like even the, 20% traffic shifted. Like, yeah, I mean, the terminology is there. This is so hard to do. Like
And
to build this kind of automation on your own.
there you go.
Oh,
So see,
nice.
I'm continuously refreshing, and you can see I'm hitting blue quite a bit, but every so often I'm hitting the green.
Well, so
Right. So I
then
guess
that begs the question, what if you wanted like a 100% cut over or one of those situations? You didn't want to gradually cut over.
you can absolutely do that. And so if we look at the documentation, there's different ways. So you can do a canary deployment, you can do a
Mhm.
linear deployment, or you can do all at once, just like you said.
Sweet.
So
Yeah.
absolutely, you can have the choice here to
God,
do
that's
that.
so awesome. And
Like,
seriously, so hard to do. Like, there are entire companies built around doing this in Kubernetes. So I love that this exists.
yeah, it's really impressive, and it just goes to show, like, when a feature's wanted, we hear you, we implement it. It may take a little time, but we want to make sure we're doing it right. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's just this has grown. Like when Blue Green first came out, it wasn't as feature rich as it is today, but that's because we continuously improve these services. So basically, this is going to take a few minutes. Actually, probably too long, to be honest. But
Well,
I want to go ahead.
maybe you were about to say this. Maybe I just interrupted you, but I mean, would it ruin the demo if we pressed that button, stop and roll back deployment?
No, and that's what I was just going to do. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
I
So
was, as soon as I interrupted you, I thought that's probably what he was about to do
he's
next.
going to go there. No, but it's good, Brent. We're on the same page here. This is good. We're like peanut butter and jelly.
Nice.
Um, okay, so this is another thing too. So you have the ability to just stop your deployment. So I could keep where it's at and just stop it and halt it, or I can stop and roll back, which I'm going to do right now. And it's going to tell me, are you sure? Because, maybe you don't want to do that. But that's what I've decided to do. So it skips everything. It counts it as a failed deployment. And now it's going to give me the status on the rollback, which, as you can see, was lightning fast. And now we're good. No more green.
So the rollback was all at once, which makes sense.
Yes.
That's what you would want.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I still have these tasks running. They'll
You might
eventually
want to
die off.
troubleshoot. Yeah.
Yeah. So just, I mean, this is pretty cool. Like this is the type of
Yeah.
stuff that gets me giddy. Um, so yeah, so we're on blue. So now what do you say? Let's deploy a broken, let's break our application and deploy it and
Okay.
see what happens.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. While you're setting that up, I'm gonna address some of these questions from chat. Um, and on to XMJ, do we have this integration of code pipeline with EKS the way you're showing for ECS? This is really cool. I don't think so yet, but I think the code pipeline team is looking into doing this kind of thing. So don't think never, just think not yet. And
Yeah.
how does this work if something like Helm diff, like, is there an approval process where you could see the change or anything like that?
Ooh, I like that question. First of
Yeah,
all, do you mind if I answer this, Brent? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
do it.
Okay. So, well, first of all, Brent and I will always, I think, agree on this. Ideally, we don't want any gates in the way, any human gates, right? Ideally, you need to have rich testing of your application and be confident enough in your application to have a CI/CD process where you can have these rollbacks where you don't need these gates. But I understand every environment's different. Enterprises are sometimes have some change management processes that you can't get around. In your code pipeline, you can actually have an approval step here. So you could, after this build, I could run like a CDK diff, or I could deploy it to a dev environment here and then have an approval gate that only certain people within an IAM that have an IAM role or that are a part of an IAM group could approve this particular deployment. So
Yep.
did you want to add anything else to that, Brent?
I think just to emphasize what your original thought was is, if you put a human gate in place, do it as a temporary measure and like try and capture what is that human looking at and what are the things that they care about and that they're checking, and figure out how to automate that so that eventually the automation can be the gate instead of a human, because ultimately where you want to be is developer pushes code, and that's the end of any human involvement, and everything else that you have is covered by pre-agreed. The thing that I love about code checks is I look at them as sort of contracts. As long as these well-defined sets of criteria have been met and proven to be true, then we're good. So go ahead and ship that code.
Yes.
So, Techie Story says, cool demo. Thank you. Uh, I agree. That was a really cool demo. Ha T Sergeant Green says, how does this differ from CDK pipelines? Is there any overlap?
Yeah, that's a good question. So CDK pipelines, because we're adding so CDK pipelines will, and this is referencing, I believe, the CDK pipelines, the new feature that was released, where it'll actually, you define your pipeline in a construct and it'll build all this nice stuff for you. CDK pipelines, the deploy step is a cloud formation deploy. So with code pipeline, you can have code deploy has multiple deployment options, and cloud formation is one of them. So essentially, the CDK pipelines construct is going to build an artifact of your CDK code, which is going to be cloud formation. It's going to basically take that assembly cloud formation template, pass it to the deploy stage, and then the deploy stage is going to deploy the cloud formation for you. In this case, our deploy stage, we had to create the pipeline outside of that construct because we have a custom deployment that doesn't fit within the CDK pipelines functionality. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. And it also sounds like someone could potentially go and write another construct that would set this up and include it. So
Absolutely.
this is still relatively new, I think. So it may just be that there isn't a construct written for this yet.
Yep. And again, remember with blue green, they don't have, CDK doesn't have uh, a construct built around this yet. It's still, there's some work that needs to be done.
Yeah. So Peak of Humanity asks, does CDK create the Fargate cluster on platform 1.4 or greater? Ephemeral storage encryption for ECS tasks is available starting with that version. And I think the answer is yes, but I also think even more importantly is the construct would allow you to specify that if you wanted to keep it at a specific version, you could totally do that.
Yes. And while we wait for that AWS CDK Fargate service, I just want to show you. It does, I believe, I want to say it defaults to 1.3.
Maybe it does like latest for the platform version.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see here. Anyways, you can override it. So I don't know exactly what the default is, but this is something that you can very easily override. And if you look at ecsworkshop.com under the microservices chapter, you can see where we define platform version there. Nice. For reference. So
a techie thought suggests also consider business load factor. I call 1980s deployments if humans are clicking buttons. And yeah, I mean, imagine if like the person that was in the middle of the gate, for approving is out on vacation or stuck in a meeting or, whatever. And we all just sit around and wait, waiting for that bug fix to go out. So yeah, it's definitely better to load them. I'm not saying get them out of the way. I'm just saying front load them as early in the process as possible.
Yes, agreed. Awesome. And so just uh, get quickly up to speed here. I
Mhm.
broke our application. I basically had index return a 500. So what's going to happen is after this replacement task set is deployed, it's going to test it and it's going to fail and then roll back. So that'll just be, it takes a minute for that to happen.
That'll be cool.
But we can see again, we see here's our app. We have our extra set. So remember, demo app was on 5 earlier. Now it's on 6. So 6 is our newest version. And actually, it does look like it defaults to 1.3.
Yeah.
So for platform version.
For this, but it is super easy to set it to 1.4.
Beyond. Yeah. I mean, it's very easy. So that's pretty much it. So we're waiting for the deploy to finish. But you have the ability to kind of customize this based on your needs. If you want to canary quickly, you can canary every minute, and if we go to code deploy, let's actually go to our deployments. Actually, I want to go to our applications. So in code deploy, you have your application, which defines how you're going to deploy to what service or to what endpoint. And then you have your deployment groups. And so the deployment group is where I can specify my load balancer, how do I want to shift traffic? And then, so we have some default patterns, but what I like is with the configuration deployment, you can actually modify this yourself. And I can say, I want to shift, 10% of the traffic every 1 minute, or
that's cool.
50% every 1 minute. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's customizable in that sense. So let's go back to the deployment and let's see, it should fail soon. Still waiting here. And the problem is it happens so quick. I don't want to miss it, but
yeah,
when it does fail. But anyway, so are there any other questions while we wait for this to fail out?
Yeah, a techie thought points out for people interested in CDK, there is the upcoming CDK day. So definitely check that out and sign up for it. And Wari21 is wondering, for having no gate or approval process in your delivery pipeline, especially for production, it feels like you have to build a lot of trust in your automation. Is there any chance you could cover some best practices in the future? And I think, yeah, we should put something like that together. I think it'll be a really cool demo, but we should build something.
Yes, I'm so in for that. That is really awesome. So
Ayushi says, funny how I've been using Lambda to kill ECS services and force create it to update when my pipeline runs. This will sure help a lot. Well, yeah, that's awesome. Glad to hear it. And Lambda is awesome for that kind of functionality, but when there's a sort of built-in way to do it, then that's just one more piece of code you get to delete. I love deleting code. So,
yes.
That's less for you to have to manage and maintain.
And it reminds me of so years ago, I worked at a startup and I built a rolling deployment automation for very similar to this. I built this really awesome framework. We used it. They still use it actually at my former startup, but I think they're migrating away from it. But which is always happens. But the cool thing is within a couple years or a year, I don't even remember how long, AWS released that functionality in code deploy. So ideally, what would have been nice, what they should have done is deleted my code, get rid of it, and just use that. And that's how when I build in AWS, if a feature is not available yet, I'm going to write code to fill that gap. And with the intention that as soon as AWS releases a feature that fills that gap, I'm deleting my code. I'm done. So
right. No sacred cows,
which I love. Yeah. So anyways, I clearly broke something in my deployment, but I don't know what happened here. The demo gods are not looking kindly on me right now.
It says it's in progress.
It does. It does. I don't know what I did. But anyways, so let's recap because I think we're kind of running low on time here.
That's true. Yeah, we're running out of time.
It's funny. We always talk about this, Brent, but it like this time goes by so fast. Like, we plan all this stuff and you think, oh, I'm not going to have anything to talk about. And then
Right?
it's,
Yeah, it's like shocking how fast an hour can go by. Hopefully, it's the same for you guys out there too. I said you guys needs that for everyone out there because that would mean that you're enjoying it. So that's awesome. Tell your friends about it. Hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Obviously, you can subscribe on Twitch also. We'll sometimes get the push notification for that, but other times we don't. But on YouTube, I think, since that's ours, you'll definitely get it there. And feel free to join us for every show. So we love to have
yes.
you.
Yes. And there is one question that I want to address that just came up. Around what sort of tools are available for performance testing, scaling of ECS tasks. So this is, I think Container Insights is going to be a big help here.
Yeah.
This is something you can enable on your cluster that gives you task insight into your tasks from a monitoring perspective, into your services and into your cluster, meaning Fargate or EC2. So definitely check out Container Insights. We do have a section on that at an ECS workshop as well, but and you can always add custom metrics.
And there's a sort of subtle nuance to this question also because Container Insights will tell us how many requests per second you're getting. I'm wondering, should we do a show on just how to performance test your container and understand what the request per second it's capable of serving is, and then use that to help set your decision making on thresholds and target tracking, auto scaling, and all that. So, because
Yes.
ultimately you really need to know going in at a certain container size, with my code, what should I expect maximum transactions per second would be. And you're not going to go over that, so you may as well use that as the scaling decision.
Yeah, that would be a great one to talk about. I concur.
Yeah, we
I
should. All
concur.
right, I'm going to write that down. So good stuff.
Once he writes it down, that means it's happening, folks.
That's right.
Remember that. So, okay. So thank you everybody for joining. Honestly, this was a lot of fun. I was glad that I got to be back in the driver's seat again, demoing.
Nice.
I love to demo and I love to just build things. So it was nice to do this. So thanks everybody. And we will see you not tomorrow. We will see you Monday.
Wait.
Is today Thursday or Wednesday? Wow. Today's Wednesday. We will see you tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, March 0. I don't know.
Part of the problem is we have not come up with a topic for tomorrow. So
that's true.
We're going to do that next. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Watch Twitter for the topic idea. And otherwise, see everyone tomorrow.
Thanks, y'all. See you tomorrow.